Hello friends, welcome back to the video. Today we'll be talking about the market in general, and recently, especially in Malaysia, a lot of stocks have been pretty positive. Of course, there is talks by certain quarters of the market saying that we might hit not just 1008 for the KLCI, but more than 2000 even, right? I think one of the most bullish, famous investors out there that's mentioning this is Mr. Tan Teng Bu. So today, we're going to give our thoughts on whether a lot of this is sustainable. But before that, right, if I look at the chart, Jonathan, it doesn't look like it's super overheated. But bear in mind, the low was like what, 1004, 1003? I remember 13 something.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. So back then there wasn't any, I think it's also because of the data center, or we discovered a new gold mine in Malaysia, which is that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now
and then, of course, YTL and all that got into the index, and then
and then it really helped to push the KLCI even further. But right now we're at 1006, so this is like the first time in the last 2 years. Pretty good. And not only just KLCI, but then there's almost all the sectors also has been rallying up.
Okay. So
utilities, yeah, this one is pretty obvious because
this is the utilities index for Malaysia.
Yeah, correct.
That's quite crazy actually.
Yeah.
More than double.
Yes.
Yeah, almost double. Yeah.
If you actually you see it and you pair it with the YTL Power and YTL Corp's chart, right, it's almost similar. So it's basically driven by them. Yeah.
Too bad we cannot buy the ETF, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then construction also is going up because of data center. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of construction company that is going up, and also because of Johor also. So yeah, that one also from the bottom, it start to have some movement. Property is the same.
Naturally,
naturally, Johor team and also other semiconductor play in Penang. REITs also, although it's like not a lot, but then it's from the bottom, it's kind of like going back up a bit.
The reason it's not, I think, is because REITs are based on cash flows, whereas property and construction are based on new orders coming in, right? New residentials or commercials being built. But these are existing ones, and the juice that's coming out from an existing unit.
Yeah. They need to realize a lot of these cash flows. But it's still going up, but it's a very slow pace. Technology, recently there's also a slight bump up. Also because of this tech recovery, everything is like going back to normal. I mean, you can see that your Meta, Apple, and everybody is like going up already. So
what's very interesting, right, is well, first of all, unfortunately, we can't buy the index. I think it will benefit a lot of people.
Yep.
The second thing is that if you notice, if you go back 5 years, the tech index was interestingly close to the bottom.
Yeah.
So let's call it 35. Today is 72, right? So it's actually a doubling in 5 years. Actually, not bad.
Yeah. Too bad there's no the ETF like what you mentioned. Year to date is like up 13%, which is pretty remarkable already.
Yeah.
Healthcare. Okay, so recently healthcare there's a slight bump because of this US tariff hike on China. So I mean, you notice there's a few counters that actually limit up, which is the big four as a result, and then it slowly start to like pace down a little bit. But yeah, so right now everybody is like happy because those who actually bought it at the top, they want to see
not just those who bought it at the bottom. It's also those that have been holding, like you said.
Yeah.
Some of our friends got it. Some of our members in FIRL Pro also got it, but finally, it's not a 80% loss anymore. It's only 75%.
Yeah. So if you're a glove holder, yeah, congrats. Finance, I'm actually quite surprised that finance is up like 8% year to date. Probably because of these.
Maybank hit I think 100 billion. Hit back.
Probably it's because of those construction, those properties activity that is booming. In general, everything is like going back up. Oil and gas also is going back up. Year to date is 20%, which is very, very good. I mean, oil and gas is here to stay. So that's for it. And then logistic also has been trickling up a little bit. This one also I didn't expect it to go up. I thought it's going to be like a very consolidating, not much of an interesting thing happening. But then it's also going up. Plantation also, but this one is like also very slow and steady. You can see year to date they're only up like 5%. Probably also this because of this ESG issue that is going around from the EU. So that's why there is not much of interest, although there is some counters that is pretty interesting to look at. they are in a inflection point. So that is something that we
Yeah.
talk a lot in the FIRL Pro group. So if you're interested, you can check out FIRL Pro.
Yeah, we cover I think in our portfolios we have at least 2 companies that we think, there's interesting potential, especially in fact our palm oil thesis is that without the CPOs increasing, there's already value that you can get from the market. So if it increases further, which is anyone's guess to be fair, then it's a sweet surprise.
Yeah, and also I believe the recent Indonesian government, his mandate is that they want to increase the biodiesel from B35 to B50. So what that means is that their local consumption for palm oil will increase, which means there will be lesser palm oil that they're going to be exporting.
Demand's increasing.
Yeah, demand's increasing. Which means also basically the supply in the world is going to be reducing, and then probably Malaysia can take some of the market share from Indonesia as a result. So we shall see whether that will be in play. Telecommunication also is going up a little bit from the bottom.
Yeah, but telecoms is always something I avoid. I don't
same
care
over
too
here.
much,
I think this one is because of OCK, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, that helped to arrive. Okay, so that is basically the entire sector or
market
index.
as a whole. Yeah.
Basically everything is going up. And then we also have seen some of these stocks actually limit up in a few days. VS Tech is one of the company that we talked a lot in 2022. And then finally it suddenly boosted.
Yeah, one of our members in FIRL Pro saw our report on VS Tech, and then he bought it, right? And then he was saying what? He has few decades worth of the FIRL Pro membership subscription in gains. So that's pretty interesting. But the thing I want to touch here is that I noticed that if I'm a completely new investor, it'll be quite difficult to find companies like that. So if you look at maybe Harta Lega aside, right? PIE, SNS, and VS Tech are companies that not that known to the public, right?
Yeah.
You just think about it. If you exclude the year-to-date gains, VS Tech would be a sub 500 million market cap company. SNS would be about 300, 400 million. And then PIE would be about 1 billion something, right? I think that's one of the challenges of the Malaysian stock market, right? Because it's not like the US where, a lot of investment gurus out there like to say, hey, you want to invest? All you have to do is just, turn on your browser and then you can
click a few buttons.
See your add-ons, see your most visited websites, and then you just buy the stock, right? I don't recommend that strategy, right? I think it's too simplistic. But the point is, you can discover companies like that, right? In the US. Whereas Malaysia is very difficult because we don't do a lot of B2C, from a global perspective, right? I mean, you have Nestle, you have the food counters, time.com, right? These are more consumer. But when you look at VS Tech and when you look at SNS, you're like, what do they even do? Right? And so that's why that's our role, right? In our videos, in our paid programs to really sort of bring to light these companies, because they're not easy to find, right? And it takes time to go and dig and find out who's doing what.
Correct. And sometimes the annual report also is hard to discover this kind of information because all of these recent rally, it is a new information to the market. So and this new information is usually presented in the briefings from analysts or sometimes even the public, but maybe you don't have the time to attend. So that is where we come in FIRL Pro. We attend all this and then we discover any new information, they will let you guys know.
But it just to go back to the charts, right? I think you can see SNS and VS Tech probably has the same driver, right? Which is cloud related, data center related. For Harta Lega Healthcare, PI, I'm not so sure.
I think it's related to
construction.
No, something to do with data center.
Data centers as well, right? Because they do. Okay, anyways, I'm not expert, so I'm not going to comment. But a lot of data center related, and it's not as straightforward. I think when most people look at data centers, they think, the people who own the land in Johor, let's say like Crescendo or whatever. Then therefore, let's go out and look for companies that have lands that are conducive for data centers. I mean, a data center has so many aspects to it, right? I mean, there's the electricity generation of the data centers, there's the equipment in the data centers, there's the services required to help people migrate into cloud or to help the big three cloud computing companies, AWS, Azure, and GCP, to set up plant and things like that. So the land is just like one component, important, but just one, right? And we can see like VS Tech. I believe recently it was announced that they were going to, supposedly they're going to work with AWS.
Yes.
And they don't only land, right? But they have a distributorship, largest in Malaysia. SNS, I'm less familiar, but yeah, that's how to look at investments, right?
Exactly. So yeah, just wanted to introduce these limit up counters, and then in summary, is basically the market is very hot, and also foreigners are in big. I mean, you can see that last week they are in 1 billion. They bought 1 billion. Last week they bought 961, and then last week they bought 1 billion. So there has been like active buying from these foreign investors, also because of the US interest rate that it's keeping at a high place, and there's not much opportunity elsewhere other than Bursa Malaysia. So now the big question is whether this market is overheating. So I think just now you mentioned it is still okay, right?
It's hard to say. I think it's all about sector. So if you ask me whether semiconductors overheating, probably not. Data centers maybe, but then data centers can be split into several different components, right? So like the VS Tech news would probably, there's some hint of overheating because a lot of it, people are just based on talk, right? Whereas the land guys, it's pretty straightforward, right? Like I have a piece of land, I'm going to sell the land. And then when I dispose the land, maybe I will distribute some dividends. So that's a little bit more concrete versus what VS Tech's experiencing. Then you got something in between like CloudPoint where they do have improved fundamentals. So really depends on which area.
Correct.
Like gloves also it's a different what do you call that? It's a different situation, right? We know that the market is I remember reading in our chat 90% capacity for China side,
yes,
right?
Correct.
And they are loss making.
They are still profit making, but their margin is like
but they're loss making in the absence of government help, right? As a corporation, they're loss making.
Yeah.
So is that a benefit to Malaysian players? Yeah, absolutely true. But like, how much is the benefit, right? So not easy to answer, but it's very hard to overheat the Malaysian market, right? Especially the KLCI, because it's largely palm oil guys, oil and gas guys, and banking guys, right? That's pretty more or less. Telco, sprinkle. Tech's not really in it. The data center guys, only YTL just joined. So really, and even you want to say it's data center related, but really it's property.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So like, is that data center? Is it as data center as, let's say, VS Tech, right? So suppose they supply the equipment or they provide a service to the data centers. Then you can imagine, I mean, data center is a going concern, right? Like it go on in theory forever. So the services that are being provided, which presumably VS Tech will be involved, is going to be long lasting. Whereas if you just have a piece of land and then you just sell it to, or even if you lease it out, right? Like it's limited, your upside, like long term wise.
Yeah. So which brings to the next point that you mentioned, which is whether is it backing or not by numbers. I think you say that the property and construction, it is backing, somewhat backing.
Sure.
But then others is just, so far, it just has been talked, which is very true because they haven't delivered the quarterly results yet. So that's why we need to see in the future whether such numbers do deliver in the future. And the next biggest question it is, so what's next? So which sector is going to benefit the next bull run? In our opinion, so if you want to know more, it's actually in our FIRL Pro. So we chat more over there.
But briefly speaking, just to give you a hint, sometimes it's not really just asking what is the next big thing, right? It's what are existing trends that are still going to keep going. So data centers probably going to keep going because there's so many components to a data center, right? And so many undiscovered parts of the data center industry that people don't even know, right? Let's just transport ourselves back to start of this year. When you mention data centers, people will say property.
Yeah.
Right. That was the focus. Right. But where was VS Tech? Where was SNS? Right. And you could even argue that even within the property guys, there are some property guys that are not even discovered yet that may sell or have exposure to data centers. So we don't, sometimes the big thing right now is the next big thing, right? There's a saying, right? The next Amazon is Amazon, right? So really, it depends. And you also do not need to look at the next big thing, right? Sometimes you can look at things that used to be big that became small that now might become big again. Whether it's oil and gas, whether it's palm oil, whether it's gloves, right? For example. So I think there needs to be a shift in thinking. It's not about finding what's the next new shiny object, right?
Yes.
But I just want to check with you. Of course, we are only about 2/3 through March. But then if we were to record the returns for FIRL Pro, what will it be today? Is it higher or lower? Today is about April is 60.49%.
Yeah, it should be around like 70 plus.
Okay, interesting. I thought it would drop, but anyways.
But the borrowing portfolio, I think
the borrowing is the craziest one, right?
Yeah. I think it's about like 10 to 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no dividends. It's crazy. By the way, guys, the borrowing portfolio is designed for dividend investors, right? The people who want like a list of companies to look at and say like, is it a good dividend profile? And so that's what we cover in FIRL Pro, among many other things. We write reports. We have the Catalyst portfolio that's more short term. Like maybe give an example what a Catalyst stock would look like.
VSTech is actually one of them. Even though it is in a FIRL Pro where we wrote a report. Reason why it is a Catalyst is because I think back in February there was this briefing that back then AWS wasn't really a big thing. They were just, the CEO was hinting that AWS is the next big thing. He just say only, but then he cannot like share numbers because everything is not like it's not in concrete documents yet. But then he said that AWS is going to be there's going to be a lion's share of order if whoever gets AWS distribution rights. So that is in February. So imagine if you get this information in February, right? You could have actually made 170%.
Yeah.
Just that. Yeah. So yeah, it could be in the Catalyst portfolio. So that is one of the main reason we can include it in the Catalyst. It is more short term. I mean, right now it's just May. In 3 months' time, you're making 170%. So that is some kind of like company that we look at.
An example.
Short term, an example. Very short term oriented.
Yeah.
Sometimes this short term can become long term if let's say the Catalyst doesn't fully realize. And with that, I actually got set a timeline. If let's say it is going beyond like 1 year, then probably I'm gonna like start cutting it or something like that.
But for FIRL Pro, it's where our best ideas are inside, right? Unfortunately, VSTech's not there, but we make mistakes. Yeah. But typically here, especially a lot of the companies that gain a lot, they're there for more than a year. A lot of them, right? So especially those that have done well, right? In fact, even our last one also, we've been holding it for coming up to 2 years now. So we do get things wrong. But yeah, like if you want a place to sort of shortcut your research to find, potentially profitable ideas, right? Where you can take advantage and you can make a decision. What we do is we do the homework for you. And then you decide whether or not the homework makes sense.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, you can give it a pass. But if you think it makes sense, then you can actually sign up. And the best part is within 10 days, you can read a lot of our old reports. And if it's not really for you, you can ask for a refund.
Our members is also smart enough to actually buy VSTech lah. However, we didn't.
Because we cover a lot, right? Like every day, I think we have at least like 5 companies where, like in a normal day, don't talk about earnings season, we have like 3 to 5 sort of pieces of information for different companies. And so we relay this to our FIRL Pro members, right? Because on here you have management and all the analysts world, and then there's the retail guys, right? So by the time they get the information, by the time you get the information, they've got it like few days or weeks in advance already. So what we try to do is to close this gap.
Yeah.
Not because we are giving information that is like supposed to be private. It's just that sometimes they make it public also, but then somehow it doesn't really reach.
Yeah, they need time to edit also. Maybe,
maybe, right.
Come up with the reports and everything.
So, enough about FIRL Pro. But yeah, if you want, hop on to the program. You want to get a taste of it, check out the free sample.
Yeah, that's about it. And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.